All right, we're live. There we are. Yes.
I love being live.
I love it. Good, good. So we're going to give folks a second to roll in. I'm also going to share my screen just to give people a second to join, and then we're going to get started. So if you are just joining us, I would love if you could introduce yourself into the chat. We've got this kind of like funny set.
Oh, I like this.
Where you can see us, but we can't really see you. So if you introduce yourself in the chat, then we know who we're talking to. So maybe tell us like your name and what city you're in. That'd be awesome. So we can get to know where everybody is. We'll give you a second to do that. I'm also going to share my screen. I know. Okay. Andres says, let's go. Andres is ready to go. Like first comment and in here.
I love this.
And Valerie says, I've been excited. See, we were just talking about how we were excited all week for this. Other people are excited too. I love it.
I love hearing that because again, as I just told Tara, like this has been what I've been looking forward to all week.
Yeah, I love it.
Like who doesn't want to like come on and end the day? Actually, because I'm after this, there is some outside cocktailing for me beginning at approximately 30 my time.
We all have to figure out how to get our lives like you with some outside cocktails after work.
I mean, who does not want to have a few outside cocktails this evening?
Yes.
It was a beautiful night here in Palo Alto.
If you guys are watching and you want to start your cocktail early, you can bring your cocktail to
we are our favorite beverage. One of the things I do when I'm not drinking, which is most of the time, is I pretend that sparkling water, like I put it in a wine glass and everything and just pretend that sparkling water is like wine. And it totally works. So if you get nothing else out of this session, sparkling water in a wine glass will make you feel fancy enough like, oh, I'm having an evening cocktail.
This is really funny too, because in the morning I've been trying to get better at doing protein shakes, but I put protein shakes in a wine glass. Yes, it's during the day, but like I won't drink the whole thing if I don't put it in a wine glass. So I'm tricking myself.
Yeah, it's all about the mental tricks.
Yeah. Good. Okay,
Shauna, this is not fake live.
This is
real live.
Real live. Said in the chat too, like marketing is such a hard topic. Like I'm excited to talk about this because need to understand. So let me share my screen because I think we can jump right into it. Let me share my screen. Let me know in the chat when you are able to see my screen when it loads up.
Erica also has a good idea of just a cup of ice. That works well too.
Oh,
nice. Jet, smart water, sparkling. You can tell that this is live because otherwise nobody would record
about these things, right?
All of our tips and tricks for cocktailing or like faux cocktailing.
That's right. I love it. Okay, so what we are talking about today, which I'm super excited about because this is a special masterclass that we're doing. We have not ever done a class like this. And oftentimes I come on live and I'm talking about how to build apps. But it's not just about, building your product and your offering. You also want to think about how you do marketing, and not just marketing where you're like hustling to do every single little thing because you read an article about it, but like smart marketing. So I want to, before we kick off anything, introduce you to my guest, who I'm so excited about. Gina is here, and Gina is the CEO of Mighty Networks. So if you guys, let me know in the chat if you've heard of Mighty Networks before. It is an amazing tool that you can use to create a community without knowing how to code at all. And to have people be able to join the community, everybody gets their own profile. People can follow each other, like each other. There's like a feed of all the posts. You can also like teach things in there. And Gina is legitimately a rock star. So Gina's been at Vanity Fair, on the New York Times, Bloomberg, Fortune. She's just like out here as a boss. So welcome, Gina. Gina, anything else that people should know about you and who you are? Can you like tell us a little bit about yourself real quick?
Hi, it's great to be here. And I am here because I am a fan of Tara and what you have brought to this whole, no code, low code movement in terms of bringing software to more and more people to be able to do with it what they want. That's something I've done since 2005 at this point. First with a platform called Ning, and now with Mighty Networks. And what I just love about what we're going to dive into today is like the topics that people care about. So, to me, it is all about taking all of the things that people can now build without knowing or needing to know a line of code, of which I do not code. And so I set the bar for my team and what we do and how we do it for the ways to customize and truly, realize our vision, which is we want to live in a world where there are millions of unique and vibrant communities that are mastering something interesting or important together, that are led by creators and brands and entrepreneurs, and that are fueled and funded by digital subscriptions and payments. So that is why I am here. And as I guess this is important, as Rick points out, I have 211,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. She's legit. She's legit.
I actually did not know what my follower count on LinkedIn was right now, in part because we're going to spend the next, hour together talking about how you don't need a social media platform or followership or audience to really create something truly amazing and in a really valuable business online.
Yes, I love it. So the other thing, because I told you that Gina is a full rock star. So I also want to tell you guys this and also give Gina a full shout out to her and the Mighty Networks team, because they just raised a round of funding. And guess how much they raised? Anyone want to guess in the chat? It's a ridiculous number. It's amazing. $50 million. $50 million to help us, people like us, continue to build communities, platforms with no code. And I'm so excited about what you guys are about to do next, because that's a huge boost to whatever you're able to do in terms of continuing to grow. So huge deal that you just raised $50 million. Congratulations.
Thank you. I like to think about it as we raised $50 million so you don't have to, because it is hard to raise money. But at the same point in time, I've never been more excited about what's possible to, bootstrap a business and really build something super cool, no matter where you are anywhere in the world. And somebody asked, is it an A round? It was our B round. So we've raised $67 million in total at this point.
Yeah. Amazing. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
So today, we're going to dive into this because there's a lot for us to talk about really around marketing. So this is like kind of an agenda of what we're going to be sharing, what Gina and I are going to be talking about. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is like the latest trend in marketing, what you need to know about where marketing is going and what you should be thinking about to wrap your head around. We're also going to be talking about how to find your ideal customer, because one of the sort of rookie mistakes I see entrepreneurs make is they're like, oh, what I'm building, it's for every single person. Everyone can use it. And while eventually, yes, maybe everyone can use it, you really want to be specific about who you're creating community for. Right? You want to be specific because everybody wants to feel special. They want to feel like this place, this product, this business is just for me. And so we're going to be talking about how to find your ideal customer, right? Because eventually, yes, you can expand and have lots of customers, but how to really focus on those people, that community of people. And also how to use smart marketing so you can work smart, not hard, to earn money consistently so you're not just like hustling up all night. We're going to really be talking about how to do smart marketing here. So give me a thumbs up or an I'm in the chat. You can type I'm in or give me a thumbs up emoji if you are ready to really jump into all of this. We're going to really dig into this and really give you a roadmap of some things to be thinking about around your marketing. Let me know in the chat if you're ready to jump into this. Yes.
Annika's in.
Yes. I'm in. Who's in? I love it. Good. Yeah. Give me an I'm in.
Cheryl.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Bye.
There's the thumb. Perfect. Okay. So this is what we're going to be jumping into in detail today. So how many of you guys, I want to start by talking about the latest trend of marketing. How many of you guys feel overwhelmed when you hear the word marketing? Let me know in the chat if you're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Let me know in the chat if you feel a little bit overwhelmed. Yeah. I know that when I started my business, I was like regularly reading like blogs and watching videos and like trying to figure out what to even start with because it all felt really daunting. Right. So one of the things that I was finding was like, oh, people are doing lots of like social stuff in their marketing, right? Like that was a trend I was seeing. How many of you guys use social media in here? It is true that maybe some people don't use social media at all, but we're all there, right? Anyone thinking about using social media to market their business? Somebody says overwhelmed squared. Yeah, right. So one of the things I was thinking about when I was getting started was like, okay, well, I can use social media to market my business. And I'm thinking about like how I'm going to do that. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that, but I know that people use social media strategies to market their business. I know that's a thing, right? I see lots of yeses in the chat. People are trying to like figure this out, right? Jonathan says, I tried, right? Yeah. Right. And for those of you who have tried marketing using social media, like let me know in the chat, is it working? Like, do you feel like it's working? It's going well? Would you get like, what would you give it? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Give me a sense in the chat of like how it's going for you. I know that, yes, Andre says it's kind of hard, right? Yeah, like the thing is it's so noisy. There's so much going on these platforms that DeForest says, I'm on the verge of paying for Facebook ads, like trying to figure this out. Shauna says, mine's kind of crickets, right? It's not fast enough. There's too much noise. Yeah, like this was a challenge that I was running into when I was starting because I was like, I can't, like people can't even hear me. Like if I post something, like do they even see it? Who saw it? Other than my mama. My mom sees all my posts. But other than that, like who else saw it? Right. So this is the thing that I had to learn that I didn't already know about how social media and like the algorithms work. So I'm gonna share this. I don't know if you guys know this because social media, like let's take Instagram, for example, it only shows your content and what you post to like a small number of people. Gina, can you explain to us how this works?
Yeah. So in part, if you think about it, it's the reason that we're seeing the way social media works in the comments right now. So you have an idea that you want to send out and get out to people because again, social media is about an audience. So you think, great, I have all these followers. This is fantastic. And what happens is that for any post that you make on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, only a fraction of your, as the slide says, a fraction is 1 to 5%. 1 to 5% of people that you've worked hard to get. And so there's this whole thing of like, oh, well, if you have an engaging post, then more people will see it. Well, great. But like, if less than 1% of your friends see your posts, how will you ever know if it can get any engagement on it? And so then what happens? What happens is that what do? Well, you're like, you get this message of like, well, more people can see this if you pay to boost. So you're like, oh, I guess I have to pay to boost. The game is rigged. The game is rigged. And by the way, we haven't even talked about the part of social media as well, which is that you start down the path of like, oh, I'm going to go to Facebook or I'm going to go to Instagram to go post this thing. A half hour later, you are sitting there because you just like looked at your feed. Like, so this in the same place that you're supposed to be doing all of this great marketing work, not very many people are going to see, much fewer, definitely fewer people are going to see what you're even posting.
Yeah.
Then Facebook and Instagram make money off of boosting and Facebook ads. And then on top of it, you're actually, I'm not going to judge you for this, but I know for myself, I end up wasting a bunch of time because I'm like, oh, well, before I post, I'll just like look through my feed a little bit. And then like, again, 20 minutes later, I'm like, what did I just do? And so then
you're supposed to look through your feed?
Right, exactly. Well, you want to make sure that you don't like post, inappropriately or in a tone deaf way, because what if something just happened in the time that you opened your phone between then, so are you going to post something about your business at the same moment that something horrible has happened in the world? And then you're going to look super insensitive. So you have to check out your feed. Yeah. And so you check out your feed, and then like the next thing you know, you're watching like 4 TikTok videos through Instagram, and you're like, oh, let me just watch another story, because these platforms are made to be addictive and to essentially take your money to get more attention.
Yeah, right.
So that's not great. And I'll take this one step further. And I've said this to a couple of people, and I think it's true, which is, here in Silicon Valley, all these smart product people are like, oh, it's all about audio now. It's all about audio. And they're looking at the success of Clubhouse. Clubhouse isn't about audio. It's about that each and every one of us felt for a few months like we had a fresh start to build our follower base on a new platform that wasn't set up to be rigged against us yet. And so there was this massive influx of people to Clubhouse, because it's like, oh, I'm going to be able to build a new audience and have a big following. And that's happened to a handful of people. But for the vast majority of us, it's another place to go where we are not necessarily moving our businesses forward. But it feels like we could, or people are saying, here's how you use Clubhouse to like make a bunch of money, or here's how you like build a following for Clubhouse. And it's just another platform where the game of following is rigged against you.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of, as my husband would call that, a guest lecture, but I feel really strongly about it. Valerie writes, oh, the hours I've spent in Clubhouse. That is exactly, and you started to do it and you're like, how do I do this? Like, am I going to be like my friend James Andrews, who like has, in the 20,000 Twitter followers, but on Clubhouse, he's like over 3 million Clubhouse followers now. Like there's only a handful of James Andrews and he already had a following. So it's almost impossible to build a social media following today, even on new platforms. And there's just better ways to do it.
So Gina, there's this concept that I've heard you talk about of like owning versus renting.
Yeah.
Can you explain that and what that means?
Sure. So there are 2 kinds of platforms out there, so if you think about the no-code platforms, whether that's, a website builder like Squarespace or a Shopify store, or, where we live, in that world for Mighty Networks, where you own your own community that shows up on your own website under your own domain name. And if you pay us lots and lots of money, you also get your own domain map, not just your domain mapped website, but your own native mobile apps as well. But I digress. So those are a set of platforms where you own the relationship with your users. Those might be customers, those might be members, those might be students, but you own the relationship. You have access to the email addresses. You have full access to data and insights about what people are doing on either your website, in your community, in your store, with your online courses. And then there's renting. So that's owning. And here's the thing about owning. You can be successful with dramatically fewer people. Like our data shows that you can create a sustainable community that people will pay you to join with fewer than 30 people.
So instead of following you on Instagram, then they are coming to your space.
Exactly. So renting, I was getting to renting in a second. So renting basically means you are fighting for attention on someone else's platform, Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You are fighting for someone's attention. You are, and what's the answer? How does everybody tell you to fight for that attention? Produce an endless stream of content. I would have used a different word for endless stream of content, but I want to be respectful that this is a family-friendly audience, but it is if you listen to the experts, they're like, well, you have to produce with consistency. It is all about producing a bunch of content. Well, guess what? Producing a bunch of content is a ton of work, especially if every time you produce content, you got to stop and spend a half hour like making sure that you're like caught up on all the people that you follow. Then that just even gets you in the door of potentially having a large social media following, which, as we just told you and shared with you, is 1 to 5% of anything that any number of your followers. Why can they do that? Because you are renting that audience from them. The algorithm controls who and what you see. And even if you buy ads, even if you're spending money, you don't know who's seeing your stuff.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And that is how the big tech platforms win and make so much money while you are actually making them money and not necessarily yourself money. The owning and ownership model means that you can do more with fewer people. You can, first of all, like I would argue more fun, but that's just me. You are not actually fighting for attention, because while it may be a little bit of a hurdle to get a small number of people together in your own network, in your own community, once they're there, they have not just you producing content for them, but they're actually meeting a bunch of other people that are sharing their stories, their ideas, their experiences. Again, not advice. Advice actually shuts conversations down, but stories, experiences, and ideas expand them and broaden them. And that's the difference between and why, I think, Tara, you and I both are such passionate believers in owning, not renting.
Yeah. Okay. So if you don't want to rent, if you don't want to be like in this rat race of like, I'm trying to post a bunch of stuff on Instagram and Facebook and like all the platforms, Clubhouse, to get people to see me, what's the alternative? Like what do we do? That's sort of like what we want to talk about today. No, like what else? If you don't want to do that, what else?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I've been, and Gina and I talk about this all the time around like creating community, right? Because it's different to be trying to get a bunch of followers, right? Like creating a bunch of followers is one thing. Having a community is a different thing. And I saw someone, typed in the chat, Sharon was saying, so like I have people who like come to my website and they come to my podcast. Are you saying to focus on them? Yes, that's exactly what we're saying, right? There are people who want to support you. And if you grab them and bring those people into community, right, then you've got, and you create your own platform. You're not renting from someone else. You've got your own platform. You then can really sort of warm them up, get them excited, have them have a lot of value. And then you can sort of take it from there. But really, we want to talk about how you can create your own community, how you can create relationships with people here.
Right. And I don't know if you pronounce your name China or Gina, but she asks, are we creating our own social platforms then? On some level, yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. But you're doing it around a topic. You are going to be narrow, but it is going to be under your brand. And the point of it, somebody's not going to join because they're like, oh, I need another social platform. They're going to join because you are giving a motivation for your community that applies to their hopes and dreams and the results and transformation that they want, not necessarily consume your content, but in the same way that Tara, I think, does such an amazing job. It's like, why are we all here? Because Tara like raised her hand and said, I'm gonna like be the brand for creating new software without coding. That got my attention, and that is really powerful. Rick asked the question, is Facebook groups to use in order to create a community? No, because Facebook groups you don't own your Facebook group. You don't have access to any, those are Facebook's users. Those aren't yours. Right. And so you do a bunch of work and you're in your Facebook group will see between 1% and 3% of the posts from your Facebook group. So if you don't want to have a algorithm stand between you and your members, and by the way, you don't know their email addresses, you would have no ability to reach your Facebook group members off Facebook. And that's really good for Facebook and really bad for you.
Right. That's exactly right. So have you guys heard of Lovey? Do you guys know who Lovey is? Let me know in the chat if you have heard of her and her story. Anyone know who she is or heard about her? She's done a really good job implementing the strategy that Gina and I are talking about. So she's got a community that she runs and curates, where instead of having to only sort of hustle on all of these platforms that she's renting, she created her own community, right? She even thought about like how like Beyonce has like the Beehive, right, of like the community around her. Like she was like, okay, like let me think about like how I can create this. And for her, it was like Love Nation, right, around her. So there were people who wanted to support her, just like for all of you guys, right? There's already people, even if you haven't even launched your business or your brand yet, there's people who want to support you, right? You could probably go through your phone book and find people who want to support you, right? And so bringing them together in a community is something that she did. To really create this.
And can I make one point that is just a tweak to so the idea that so much of like this whole world of business and creation and creators is people that want to support Lovey. Lovey actually started there, but where she got to very quickly was, how do I help my members, and specifically a subset of my members, achieve results and transformation in their lives that they can't achieve on their own. And so when you think about shifting it from how do I get someone to support me in my content, to how do I help someone achieve something that they cannot get on their own through the power of a community, where it's not just about Lovey, but it's about her thousands of members who are there helping each other. That is the power of a community. That is the power.
And then she's not responsible for creating all of the content. That the community is helping each other.
Right. And so Valerie has a great question. Where do you find your community if not for social media? As you see in these numbers, Lovey built a social media following. So that's certainly one way. But now imagine if you don't have a social media following, instead of wasting your time trying to build one, you start with the people that you know and a topic that they care about. And you can do it. Maybe there are people in your network that will be your founding members, but even if it's not people in your network, whether that's friends, family, people you go to church with, people you work with, your colleagues. But think about it this way. What if you asked every single person in your network for a recommendation or to nominate somebody for the community that you're building, especially because you can add online courses into that community as well. So the community is going to learn together. And that is the power of starting with a community. And by the way, when Lovey was starting to build that following that she has on social media has morphed over the last decade. It was much more like a community. And now, as Lovey would say, I think she refers to it as the trash fire of social media, and getting off the trash fire of social media and really creating her own community that is free and private, but then also has a paid online membership within it.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's spot on. So she has, if I look at the numbers that were on the last slide though, because you said something, Gina, about like, you don't have to have like, when you own the community, you don't have to have all the numbers, because you then have, you have more access to it. But if you look at her social media follower numbers, like they're 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, but that's different than how many members are in her community.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's okay because it's more intimate.
Yes, because it's more intimate. It's also more valuable. It's more focused and it's more valuable.
Yes.
So especially one of the things that she's doing is with that paid program that she launched, that paid membership that happens over the course of the year, she's setting up private guest speakers and weekly challenges, and has a whole journey for those paying members so that they can achieve the results and transformation that they want in their careers, specifically in her case. And so, yeah, she has 14,000 members. But again, what we see across, literally, we have over 10,000 paying customers, like paying hosts of communities and creators, brands, and coaches doing this. And what we see across our platform is that you can create a sustainable community that people will pay for.
Yeah.
With less than 30 members, fewer than 30 members.
Yeah.
And so it's so much easier to start, because how many people think that it's easier, that you could probably bring together 30 people around a topic that they care about and that you care about, versus that it's going to be easier to do that versus go and build 35,000 people following you on Instagram.
Right. Right.
Which, by the way, is just like, if you're, what you can do, and we'll get to this, like, you can do so much more with 30 members in your own community that you own than you can ever do in social media, where you are fighting an algorithm that is that is essentially rigging the system.
Yeah, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. Is this making sense? Let us know in the chat. This is coming together for you. You're seeing maybe some ways that you can maybe use this for your business, because I want to, now that we understand what Gina is talking about this concept of owned versus rented, and this other way that you can go about creating community, I want to talk about who you should invite into your community in the first place, and how to find the ideal person, right? Because understanding your audience makes a huge difference, right? Understanding who wants to connect together, who you can reach out to, like, that's really important, right? So I often talk about different types of customers, like anyone that you could reach out to for your business, for your community. They fit into one of three lanes, right? So the first lane that you can think about is like the fast lane. These are people who, like, they are they're ready to go. They hear about your community or your business, and they're like, yes, I'm in. Yes, immediately, now, right? Those are people in the fast lane. They're moving fast. They're ready to go. Then you've got people who are in the slow lane. These are people where, like, if you explain to them, you have a long conversation about it, like, they'll kind of get it. They'll wrap their heads around it, but you've got to really explain it and give them a lot of evidence and examples, and you've got to kind of convince them, right? And then there's people who are on the sidewalk, right? This might be like my grandma, right? She's not going to download your app. She's not going to, like, log into your community. She's probably just not going to do it at all, right? And we all know people who are in those different lanes. And so one of the things that you want to be thinking about is how you go after people who are in the fast lane to start with. To start with, who are the people who are like, yes, absolutely, I would be in, right? A lot of people don't know that lots of small businesses fail. Like, the main reason small businesses fail is because they create stuff that people don't want. They start creating for people who are on the sidewalk or who are in the slow lane, like they're not really focused in on people who are in the fast lane. I'll give you an example of this. If you look at Amazon, for example, when Amazon launched, they now have like all sorts of different kind of products. You can buy like everything on Amazon now, right? But when Amazon launched, they specifically were focused on books and people who love books. That was their first focus community. And they built something great for those people and then expanded, right? So sometimes we're thinking about like, everybody is going to want to be part of this. And yes, that is likely true, but we really want to be focused on like the specific community we want to start with, right? You want to be able to give people what they want, but it's easier to do that when you really focus. So there are a bunch of ways.
Let me just even offer a really specific example that is like kind of obvious about this, or hopefully makes this a little bit more obvious. So we see a lot of people who start their community and they're like, I want to bring together like really fancy people in an industry. So I want to bring together the most, like all of the HR professionals. Okay. Or I'll just use HR professionals. So what they do is they go out and try to recruit, the most famous HR professionals who are like really, really successful. And they are like, if I'm only going to be successful if the fanciest, the CXO as they're called, the chief talent officer of Spotify is like in my community. And then those people are like, I'm kind of busy. And so then what happens is they're like, oh, I guess nobody wants this community. Meanwhile, all of the people that are starting their careers in HR or user experience design or, with side hustles or with, executive assistants, like whatever it is, they're starting their career. Guess what? They're hyper motivated to meet and build relationships with each other because you can navigate your career together. Now, what happens when you go and you show up to a really senior person and you're like, hey, I have a community of 30 like hyper talented HR professionals and we're building this community out. Would you want to be a guest speaker? Just like what Lovey's doing. And now that person might be a lot more motivated to participate because they're able to leave a legacy. They're able to have an impact, but you're not, it's all about where you start that you can expand. So start with the people that are the most motivated, the fast lane folks. I think about them as like the people who are the most motivated to join your community in all caps. And also don't get discouraged if the first profile of your ideal customer isn't interested. It doesn't mean that you don't have a really powerful opportunity for either your community or your app. It just means you haven't met them yet. You haven't met the fast lane folks yet. So if you can reframe in your own head, and I've had to do this, like I had to get much more specific with Mighty Networks when we were starting off, because I probably wasted a good year and a half, Tara and everybody, like being super general and being stubborn about it. Like, of course it's for everybody. Anybody can create any. And it was only as we were like just beaten down where I was finally like, I give up. Like this should be working better than it is. I'm just going to, okay, fine. We can focus on career networks. And in focusing on career networks, guess what happened? Not only did we have more people starting networks and communities around their like different career types, small business owners, teachers, foreign language teachers, HR professionals, executive leadership. What happened was then folks that were creating communities for health and wellness, for diets, for meditation practices. They started creating Mighty Networks. And so then we grew from just being focused on career into health and wellness. And then people that had other important interests, from parenting to personal finance to retirement to, knitting and working on your cars, like all of them started joining and creating Mighty Networks. And again, it's like having your own website. So when I say join, I should say create. Now we started growing so much faster in a way that if we had not focused in the first place, we would have actually failed. And so like I have lived, I saw the slide before of like most small businesses fail because they create products people don't want. It's the story of the ugly duckling and the swan. You just haven't met the people who know that you're a swan yet. Yeah. And when you can be a detective as opposed to be afraid and tap into that fear that each and every one of us has of like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a party and no one's going to show up. I think it was Shauna had, oh my gosh, does this mean I have to cold call people? Reframe that into, I am building something super valuable for the right people. And so of course I want to talk to them, like, because I'm trying to find out whether this is a fit for their hopes and dreams and what they are doing. And if they're not, thank you, next. I'm going to find the right people who need this now more than ever.
Yeah. No, that's fun. I really resonate the story you're telling about how at the beginning of Mighty Networks, it was hard to put your finger on that and to say that. Like I had such a hard time with Apps Without Code saying that like we really love serving like women and people of color. And it took me so long and like so much work to like actually say that, because I was worried that like, oh, I'm going to be like, make people feel like they're excluded and all those things. But like, I actually don't think in reality, anyone is thinking that, right? Anyone was as worried about it as I was. And so it does help to define who your ideal customers are. And then other people come too, who are also about that mission, even if they're not perfectly like fit that. And so what are some ways that folks who are listening can define their ideal customer? Like if they want to create a community, they want to get people in there, they're going to use that as a way to sort of kick off their business. Like how do they define who to start with?
Right. So, one, being narrow up front does not mean that you are being exclusionary.
Yeah.
It's not about, so it's also doesn't mean that your content doesn't apply to everybody. It's not about your content. It's about who is going to help each other get the best results in transformation.
Yeah.
Who's going to help your members or your customers get the best results in transformation? Well, it's probably going to be a really clear idea of folks that are like each other. So Shauna asked the question, how is this platform different from having a website to flow people towards? It's exactly this point. You are actually not just building an app that somebody is going to consume. You are building a community where people are building relationships with other users, with other members, which means they're much more likely to keep coming back because they're not just having a conversation with you, they're having a conversation with 30 other people. And that's going to bring them back. That's also going to get them more value. The fact that you all are here right now and asking questions makes this so much more lively. So if you're thinking about a website as just a static Squarespace or Wix website, they don't have the features that are going to connect those members to each other, bring them back, and help them master a topic that is interesting or important to them. That's what a community website does. And that's the difference with, for example, a Mighty Network. So as you think about getting narrow in your ideal customer, if you think about how you are able to bring value to any member, because they're looking around, they're like, oh, I want to be here because I not only care about this topic, but I'm going to learn from other members. That's how you want to start thinking about it. So what does that look like to go narrow? Well, certainly it's demographic, geographic, psychographic characteristics. And then it's, what do people share in terms of hopes and dreams? What are their fears and anxiety? But here's the thing that makes all of this easy, which is, where are they at in their lives? So as I described that example of like the brand new folks that are graduating from college or early in their career as HR professionals, that's an example of a life stage or a transition. And when you start to think about, who are you bringing together? What are you going to do together? And what are the results and transformation that you're going to get your members as a result of being a member of this community and navigating these topics together? That's how you get to a really powerful and effective ideal member. So that's also how you can help clarify that you're not going after the really, busy, and also like somebody who's later in their career already has their network. They don't need to build one, but somebody early in their career is absolutely motivated to build their network. So that's an example of a life stage in transition.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. That makes total sense, because it's so important to get clear, right, on who you're going to start with. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we talk about next, Gina? Any thoughts?
What
do we talk about next? Like, what I think it's useful to talk about, like, how people do this.
Yeah. So, so the first thing, so we always start with, who are you bringing together? So if you are starting, so it might be the people, the same exercise that you are doing with respect to who's going to be your customer of your app. What do they have in common? Where are their challenges? Where are their hopes and dreams? And are they in a life transition? So are they starting their career? Are they are they a manager for the first time? Are they thinking about, what happens like at middle age? Like, are they thinking about that next chapter is one way to think about this as well. And then from there, you can go and start to talk to people and like hear how they actually talk about, how do they describe themselves? How do they describe their transition? What are their hopes and dreams? Because that's what you get to in terms of the promise of results and transformation in their lives. So as you start to think about these things, you can begin to pull together a community. And again, you can do it with fewer than 30 people. So this is so different than I talk out at you and I'm like trying to build a social media audience. This is about, if you can get 30 people to come together to meet and build relationships with each other in pursuit of the results and transformation that they want in their lives and they cannot get on their own. Because guess what? We all have a finite amount of willpower and energy and self-discipline. And so if we can lean on a community to help us do things that are good for us, that's why a community is awesome. If you want to learn something new, it's awesome when you want to build a new habit or a new practice. And a community is awesome when we're all navigating a rapidly changing world.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people that are listening to this are working on app ideas or building apps. So I just want to like throw a scenario at you and make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Great.
So let's say that I'm building an app I'll use your example of like for first-time managers, right? So my app helps managers track like their performance and their progress as a manager and also maybe learn about how to be a manager. So like I'm creating that app. And I want to create a community is what you're saying. Like I can create a community for first-time managers. Even if I'm not even done building my app yet, I can create this community for first-time managers, right?
Well, and you probably want to.
Yeah.
And here's why. You will learn what they want and what they need. So I'll give you another example. We did not know that we knew nothing about online courses. we were community people. Like, again, as I told you, like I've been building community platforms online for communities online and in the real world since 2007. I know a lot about communities. I know nothing. Well, at the time, I knew nothing about online courses. So we put out Mighty Networks. We launched Mighty Networks, and almost immediately, our customers started talking to us about adding online courses. Like, it was obvious to them. It was obvious to them that we should build online courses and community together in the same place. Like, they were like, dudes, and they didn't in fact call us dudes, but that's my interpretation of it. Dudes, like, just build online courses in. Like, it's like online courses, when it's just about PDFs and videos, no one finishes our course. Like, I'm not getting the results from my students. So then I have to go and like, I've spent all this money and time building a course. And then I have to go build a Facebook group that I didn't even think about because it was an afterthought. And now I have to manage this separate Facebook group, which, by the way, then now I've got two places to manage. So this whole notion of like, oh, my members don't want to go to any other platform. It's not true, because, you know, there's online course platforms. So they basically said to us, like, we're using a Mighty Network for an online course that we have on another platform. Just build it in, and then it will be awesome. They kept telling us it would be awesome. And so we built it in, and it was awesome. And it's gotten more and more awesome. You know, we have now 3 different ways of running online courses within a Mighty Network. You can have a course that you're running live, meaning the community is front and center, embed live streaming in. The community is front and center, but you're recording all of the material and you're turning it into a course. Then you can take that live course, launch another cohort, launch another course where the community is still there, like a new community with the course content front and center. Or you can decide to not have a course community and just have the course content. Would we have ever done any of those things if we weren't co-creating what we're building in terms of the software with people that are using it or people who would want to use it? No, that's not how it works. So, you know, I think that the new MVP isn't, you know, minimum viable product. I think it's maximum people. It's people, not product. Because you will learn more. Because the other thing is, and we did this too, user experience or usertesting.com, or we'll do surveys or we'll do interviews. Nothing replaces watching members talk with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you see what they want.
Like, we're watching the comments right now, and we're making this session better because folks are sharing questions, and your questions are building off of each other's questions. And it's a more valuable network. It's a network that is getting more valuable with each new person who is showing up to this chat right now and contributing.
We're going to have to create a community of everybody who's here so we can all engage then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, good. This makes a lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense because like everybody's really distracted on socials. We can get them focused in this specific community about whatever our topics are that we each do. And so we can be really smart about cutting through all the chatter and the noise. And like, there's often like all kinds of negativity out there on these social platforms. And so we get to create our own communities for that, and then be able to listen in the community to what our customers want, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Now, some people are asking, well, how do I get the people to join? Because if we want to be smart about this, we've got to identify an ideal customer, and we've got to like talk to them and invite them to come join our community, because having a community makes this easy. But we also want to think about like, how do we get those people? I saw someone say in the chat, like, how do I get my first 30 people, right? Like, how do I get those people to join me? I was just thinking about this when we were looking about the example of first-time manager, right? I can probably go through my phone book on my phone and text people who are either like I went to school with, or probably a first-time manager by now, or I already know that they're a first-time manager, I probably could text 30 people in my phone right now and say like, hey, I made this community. Here's the link. I just dropped it in. Would love for you to join. Here's what we're talking about in there. And it'd be cool if you came to be part of the conversation.
And I'll even build on that with something we see that works really well, which is starting with your ideal customer interview. Like, hey, you look through your phone and don't think about, oh, I'm going to start inviting people in. You are actually going to increase the odds of your success if you start to talk to people and do just even a quick 20-minute conversation for how they actually talk about what they want to learn. So you don't approach it as like, oh, I need to recruit 30 people in. Here's the link. You should go into my link. Hey, Tara, I'm building a community for new managers, and I'm only going to take 30 to start. In fact, actually, in the first, like my founding members, I only want 10 founding members. First of all, would you like to, learn a little bit more about it? I'd love to interview you to see what your experience as a first-time manager is. And then also, like, do you have any other nominations for that first group of 10? For that first group of 10. It is all sitting in your phone as we speak.
Yeah. So it conversation, but then
it's not going to work. Like, it's not, hey, I'm about to start a community, hit me up, and like putting that on Facebook. That's not going to work. Make people feel special. And then what you're listening for is the results that they want, the questions that they have. So now we can come back and say, this amazing community for first-time managers in this, like, have you ever asked yourself the question, how do I ask people to do things that they don't want to do? Or how do I lead a team to results that, I think are impossible, or whatever it might be? Those aren't the best ones I've ever used, but like, you're listening for those questions that sound like that. Oh, wait, that's me. Oh, wait, that's me. And you can do that through your phone book right now.
And you could have people then do, like, they can join the community and it be free. And you also, Mighty Networks lets you also like charge to join the community too, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about charging, because I even saw this whiz by, and I've seen it before, which is, oh, well, I have to build something out and make it perfect before I can charge. How many people believe that that's the case? I have to have great content. I have to, make sure the videos are professionally produced. I need to make sure, like, I've talked to people that have spent 6 months building out an online course that then has had like 2 people join. 2 people join, and one of them wanted a refund after their first week. This is Martinez Evans, who runs the Slow AF Run Club. And he had 34,000 followers on Instagram under his 300 pounds in running account. He was already a micro-influencer. He got 2 people. And instead, first of all, he didn't get discouraged. And discovered Mighty Networks, created a Mighty Network for the Slow AF Run Club. And not only does he have an amazing community, and this is, he made $140,000 in his first year, both through paid programs that he had never run before. He didn't run the program and then could charge for it. He charged for it because people pay attention to what they pay for. And if the goal is to get them results and transformation in their lives, and we have the data to back this up, the engagement on paid networks, paid communities is so much higher than those that are free. So if you think that you're going, the only way to do this is to start by making something free and then charge, you don't have to do it that way. Really small thing on Martinez that I'm super excited about, because he called me earlier today. He just got a book deal. And he got a book deal not because he's got 35,000 followers on Instagram. He got a book deal because he's got thousands of people in a community that have shown that they are willing to pay for virtual races, for his programs. You need fewer people. And really, at the end of the day, you don't need more than 30 people to get started. And it's the Slow AF Run Club.
I love it.
I'm going to say, I think I'm just going to pronounce your name, China. I feel like I have to really deliver amazing content to get them to pay. No, you need to deliver them a community experience. Maybe it's even an online course that you're teaching live, kind of like what we're doing right now, and help them get result, give them the support, the community, and the guidance to, and you don't have to be an expert to give guidance. You just need to be one step ahead and raise your hand and say, I'm going to build a community. I'm going to bring people together, and I am going to help each and every one of us get the results and transformation that we want to have in our lives and have not been able to get it on our own.
This is so good. Is this, I just want to check in with folks. Let us know in the chat if this is helpful and you're learning stuff. Just let us know in the chat if this is helpful and you're learning some stuff. This is really good. I want to do just a quick recap of what some of the takeaways are, and then I want to leave you guys with a homework assignment to do based around this. But the first thing that we've talked about is like social media. Traditional social media is not the place to build a community, right? It's not an actual community where people are helping each other. Like if you post something, people like it's hard for people to even see it, to have a whole community around it. Right. So that's the first thing. Second, like truly understanding who your target customer is and what they like, and really watching them interact. It's going to make your marketing and your community way stronger. It's going to help you really build something substantial if you really are putting them together and understanding what they're talking about. Right. And not only are communities just cool, but you also can be smart about it and charge for your community. Like Gina was mentioning, like it can also be a stream of revenue if you want to do it that way. And it is way easier than you think, because people like Gina have created these platforms for us all to do it on. Like we don't have to code it from scratch. Like we can use these platforms.
That's right.
Right. So I want to show you one more thing, but before we jump into that, I just want to know in the chat, what kind of industry do you think that you could build a community in? Let me know in the chat. I'll give you a second. Like what kind of industry could you build a community in, community around? Right? What kinds of people, what kinds of trends, topics, like what might people want to join a community around, or what you might want to join a community around, because you could create it, right? Real estate. Yeah. What other sorts of things? Health. Yeah. Got it. Great. Mothers and young women. See any good ones, Gina? Any other good ones?
These are great. When you think about fashion, go one step further. You know, what kind of fashion? Same for, like financial education. For who? Who needs your financial education the most right now? All caps is how I think about it.
Really specific.
Yeah. Go narrow. Art video games is pretty narrow. So I like that. Women over 50 in transition. Love that. Again, what kind of transitions? What does that look like? And one of the other things to keep in mind is what is that positive, like that positive place that you're going. So the transitions can go from, fueling, our navigating together what our definition of that next chapter will be, how we realize the full potential for our next chapter. New homeowners, a great example of a transition. When you are a brand new homeowner, you especially if you then look at it, what kind of homeowner are you? And thinking through some of those more specific and narrower ways, it works. It absolutely works.
Yeah. Great. We always talk about the riches are in the niches. You want to be specific.
Riches are in the niches or niches.
You have to
I go back and forth on how I say it.
I say niche too, but it doesn't rhyme that way. So
no, that's a good point. Good point.
Great. Cool.
This is awesome.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Lorena, new golfers, like BIPOC, like new golfers. I love that. That shows transition. They're new to it. Again, what describes them and like, by the way, I will also say underserved does not mean small. It means underserved. So that is an amazing opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Great. So in terms of takeaways and homework assignments, I want to leave you guys with this. I would love to see everyone here go sign up for a free 14-day trial of Mighty Networks, because it's going to allow you to get a community set up to see how this can work for you. Gina has built an incredibly easy to use software too. Like sometimes I'll try new software and I'm like, dang, I don't even know what I'm doing in here. Like that, I do not feel that way in Mighty Networks. And so you guys have done a really great job making this simple. We just dropped the link into the chat. Go ahead and click on that link so that you can get your free 14-day trial. And I'll give you a second to get signed up. It depends on where you're looking at it. So my team may need to drop the link a couple times so everyone can get it because the chat's moving fast. But grab that link. I'll give you a second to grab it, pin it, get your account signed up so that you can check this out. And really be able to use it as a great way for customer engagement. There's a lot of different ways I think you can see about how you can use this and how you can create this, right? Great. Any questions? Any questions that have come up for folks that you want a little bit more clarity on as people are getting signed up right now? Any final questions folks have? Gina, you were going to say something? No?
No, I was looking at the questions. I was wondering if there were some questions earlier that we didn't get to.
Yeah, we can go back. Let's see. Let's scroll back.
Or I bet we have new questions. Or folks, if we didn't answer your question, just ask it again.
Yeah.
Claire asked how much to charge for a membership. So the way to think about charging for membership, first of all, there's no one price, because this is not like your Netflix, Hulu, like entertainment budget. Like when you are creating a community that gets more valuable to every member with each new person who joins and contributes, and it's around an important interest because you want results and transformation in your life, you are not limited by like, oh, I can only charge $5. I even saw another question. What's the max? I don't want to overcharge. People pay attention to what they pay for. And if it is related to their career, their health, their wellness, any of the interests that we saw here, other important interests to them where there's an element of learning to it, especially if they're in a transition, it is not like, oh my gosh, I don't want to charge them. It's an investment. It is an investment in you. And how many other things have you invested in? You invest in books, you invest in career counselors, you invest in actual like therapists, you might invest in going to a yoga studio or buying a subscription more recently online. You are going to pay money for the things that you care about and where you want to get results and transformation. So you want, and by the way, people will get better results if you pay for it because people pay attention to what they pay for. Then think about not what's the right price. Think about the value your members are going to get. So for example, back to our HR or new manager, let's say somebody is really a bad new manager. What's going to happen to them? What's going to happen? Probably not going to get promoted.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? It means they're probably going to make the same amount of money or less money because they're going to get fired. Now, let's say somebody is actually a good manager because they're learning and they're with a group of people online, and potentially as we come back in the real world, we support both of those use cases, both of those things at Mighty Networks. And all of a sudden, what happens? Well, if you're better at your job and you're making better decisions and you're smarter about it, and like you're working smart, not hard, as we've talked about from the beginning here, you're probably going to get promoted. What is that promotion worth? Well, guess what? The investment somebody made in your community is helping them get a promotion. That means your community is actually valuable to them, to the amount of the difference between what they were making and what they're making now. So if you start thinking about how the value, as opposed to like, what did they pay for it? And is it too much money? Think about an investment in where somebody wants to go and a community that is going to help them get there.
Yeah.
And Shauna, if you don't get 30 people before the 14 days are over, that's okay, because you are setting up the foundation for an investment that you're making in bringing a community together that is going to increase the odds of your success. So if you quit at 10 people, then you're never going to get the opportunity or 5 people, you're never going to get the possibility of those 5 people turning into 10 people, turning into 30 people, turning into 300 people, especially if you really focus in and figure out how those 5 people get the best results and transformation possible. And you get to work on that, and then you can expand it. Because guess what? It is actually much easier to expand and grow a program that works, as I think Tara is a great example of, then try to do all these things at one time, have a kind of a crappy experience for people, and then try to scale it. And then like that doesn't work. Get it right with 5 people and then expand. And Rick, yes, there are phone notifications for new comments, as well as a number of other notifications that you get with a Mighty Network. Oh wait, you went mute.
I wanted to address this question about getting a website, because you get a really nice page where people can come to join, see information about your community. They read information, they can then get signed up. So when you create your Mighty Networks account and create your community, you get a page that you can send people to, that you can use as your website. Yeah. Great. Other questions. Let's see. There's some questions about like, can I link Mighty Networks to, if I'm using like something else, I'm building an app separately, can I link it? Yeah, you can just give them the link. Like you can put a button in your app that says like join the community, and they'll click it and be able to join. So yes, you could totally do that. Great. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. But if there are more questions, you guys can feel free to shoot me an email. If you, for some reason, didn't get the link, I will try to follow up with you guys and make sure that you have the link as a follow-up to this. And we also just dropped it again into the chat. Super excited to be talking to you guys today about marketing and community and how you can integrate this into your strategy. And thank you so much, Gina, for coming in.
My pleasure. Yes. This is awesome.
This has been amazing. We have a rock star in our presence, y'all. So we want to hear more about, your journey and your progress. We'll be following you on, we need to find and join a community to come jump in.
We have one. It's called Mighty Hosts, and you can get to it at hosts.mn.co.
There it is. Yes. Okay. So we can be part of your community too. Amazing.
HTTPS.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll get people the link to that too. Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you so much again, Gina. We will talk to you soon. And I'm super excited to see all the communities that everybody builds as a result of this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tara. Thanks to everybody for having me today. And I look forward to continuing the conversation for sure.
We will talk to you guys all soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.